Hi everyone, my name is Erin Pada and I'm a grade 3 teacher and a grade level literacy coordinator. And I started this blog, Assessment for Learning, so we can start a dialogue about best practices for formative assessment. Hopefully you read my recent blog post, Making Feedback Count, but just in case you're not the reading kind, or maybe my blog post is long-winded, or for those of you who are super busy right now, which I'm sure is all of us, I decided to break this topic down into clear, manageable parts and present each part in a vlog series. So in my article, I talked about 3 components of feedback that I feel are really important and that we as educators should consider when we give students feedback on their work. And these are the type of feedback we're offering, the approaches and resources that will help students apply feedback, and the manner in which we communicate feedback. And today I'm going to focus on feedback types, and I will be referring to a 2007 meta-analysis by Hattie and Timberly, which divides feedback into 4 types: task, process, self-regulation, and self. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term meta-analysis, this is a study that combines the results of multiple studies over a period of time. And this particular meta-analysis incorporated 196 studies and reached the conclusion that feedback has a powerful effect on learning outcomes. I came across this meta-analysis via a 2014 research study by Harris, Brown, and Harnett, which analyzed student peer and self-assessment feedback in New Zealand primary and secondary students and sorted the feedback comments into the 4 categories set out by Hattie and Timberly. And the Harris, Brown, and Harnett study revealed that 79% of those comments were either task or self comments, 16% were process comments, and less than 5% were self-regulation comments. So let's talk about what these different types of comments look like and which are the most effective. So self-regulation feedback focuses on self-monitoring, and it's usually seen in self-assessment comments. So examples of this type of feedback are, I think we were really successful today because we worked as a team. Or next time I'm going to use my time more wisely. So since we're talking about teacher feedback today, I'm going to leave self-regulation feedback out of the equation and focus instead on task, process, and self-feedback, since these are the types of feedback comments that teachers will be offering to students. And since writing is an academic area in which a lot of feedback is offered, the example comments I'm using today are going to focus on writing. So the first type of feedback that teachers might be giving is called self-feedback. And self-feedback is like non-specific praise, such as overall, really good, or keep up the good work. And this type of feedback can be encouraging, but it doesn't really help a student understand what they were doing well or what they can do to continue to grow as a writer. Task feedback tells a student whether the work was correct or incorrect, or whether it met the standards set out by the teacher or the class. Examples of this type of feedback are, your story could be a bit longer, or you used a lot of interesting vocabulary. And while this type of feedback gives students a sense as to how they were performing and whether they met the mark or not, it doesn't really help them move their work to the next level. Process feedback is about the processes underlying the task or assignment. Examples of this type of feedback are, make sure to develop a clear plan before drafting your next story, or read your story aloud to yourself so you can hear where you need a full stop. In this case, the student receives some information as to what they can do to improve their piece. So what type of feedback is going to be most effective in improving student outcomes? Well, as always, it depends on your intentions and expectations as a teacher. What do you want your comments to achieve? If you want to boost student self-esteem, then self-feedback has the potential of doing that. If you're commenting like on a final assessment, you might be using task feedback in order to just simply give the student a sense of how they did on the assignment. However, if your feedback is formative and your purpose is to give students a chance to grow as writers and improve their product, then process feedback is the type of feedback you need to be using. Of course, you might have multiple reasons for giving a particular piece of feedback. So when writing feedback comments, we want to keep our intentions in mind, and we want to tailor the comments to the individual student. Some students might need more praise at first, and in that case, self-feedback might be appropriate, for example. I do want to raise a word of caution though when it comes to self-feedback. While these types of comments might boost self-esteem, they may also have other unintended effects when students hear them over and over again. Firstly, teacher comments serve as a model for peer and self-assessment comments. And when students see self-comments from the teacher, such as, "Well done on this," they're more likely to give these types of comments themselves when they're assessing their own work or the work of a classmate. Therefore, be careful how many of these types of comments you give. If we want students to give helpful, specific feedback, this type of modeling might be counterproductive. Another important consideration is this idea of growth mindset, which was discussed and written about by Carol Dweck. To put the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset in simple terms, growth mindset is the belief that achievement comes through hard work, whereas fixed mindset is the belief that intelligence is innate. I hear a lot of examples of fixed mindset during our class meetings when students give each other compliments. A very popular compliment is, "He is smart." But I've also heard students give growth mindset comments, such as, "She listens carefully when the teacher is talking," or "He does his best on every assignment," or "She's improved a lot in English since the beginning of the year." So that's basically the difference between these two mindsets. And when we give a lot of self-feedback, "Great job," "Excellent work," we're teaching students that the goal is perfection or achievement. And if you're wondering what types of comments to give a student that's gone above and beyond expectations, try focusing on the process. "You made a lot of improvements from your first to your second draft." Or, "I can see you were paying attention during our lesson on descriptive language because you have a lot of interesting adjectives in your story." These types of comments will send the message that hard work, improvement, and growth are most important. So I encourage you all to take a look at the comments you've been giving and just take a moment to reflect on whether they serve your intended purpose, whether they're well tailored to the specific student, and whether they support peer and self-assessment and growth mindset. I can tell you firsthand that I've learned a lot just by looking through the comments I give and kind of mentally sorting them into the categories. And now I'm much more aware when writing comments. I'd love to hear what you all think about this vlog, about the topic of peer assessment, or about feedback specifically. How often do you give feedback? Have you found any tricks which make it easier to give feedback or which make your feedback more effective? Please comment below and stay tuned for my next video in this series, which will focus on the approaches and resources that will help students apply teacher feedback.